Alright, hello everybody, and welcome to Analytical Fanboys, the monthly Modular Media Club podcast. I am one of your hosts and this month's topic selector, the Backhuminator, and I am joined, as always, by my esteemed colleague, Boingo Ryder.
Hello, I am made of steam. I am hot water.
Ooh, the steam hopper is here, buddy. He's gonna hop all over you. And somebody who is all the best at hopping is Snowcone83.
My ankles and arthritis would disagree with that, but hello, I am here.
Hi, how you doing?
My back hurts and my ankles hurt.
Okay, well, we'll get you some ibuprofen. But in the meantime, Buster Corp, what hurts in your body right now?
My throat.
That's fair. That's fair. You gargle with salt water?
I don't know. I'm just trying to live.
That's like I don't know if that's like specific to any region, but that's definitely like an old mom trick for getting rid of a sore
I've heard
throat.
of it before. I think I've done it before, but like, I don't.
My mom makes me do it every time I get sick, even if I don't have a sore throat.
Just drink tea. Just drink nice hot tea with lemon.
Tea, Earl Grey, hot.
No, tea. No, wait, Earl Grey has regular tea in it, but tea. Because a lot of herbal teas aren't tea. They're a lot of herbal teas don't use the plant that tea is made out of. They use herbs.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, I have to interrupt this real quick to mention that I've currently broken my record for kills in a single Fortnite match.
Whoa!
Congratulations, buddy, you did it.
You got a whole 2.
There's 4 people left in the match. I've killed 21 of them. Going on about another one right now.
Oh, wow, 21. You know what? That's such a great number. That's such a great reference to the thing we're talking about today because it kicks off with Supergirl's 21st birthday. Anyway, it's my month to pick the topic, everybody. And because it's the final one I get to do this year, and I've been holding it in reserve for a good long while because I didn't want to be crazy obvious. I didn't want to just go right to it. But, just kind of felt like the right time finally to subject these boys to Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, my second favorite comic book of all time about my favorite comic book character. It's an 8-issue mini written by Tom King with art by Belquist Evely. And it's really, really good. I like it a whole lot. I feel like it's the perfect, just here is a book about Supergirl. This will make you understand why people like Supergirl. And it only took us something like 60 years of her existence to get it. Love comic books. Anyway, this was, of course, not my first time reading this. It was probably like my 10th or 11th time reading it, if I'm to be perfectly honest. But I enjoyed it once again. Don't want to get too deep into my thoughts just yet, but we'll go ahead and kick off by asking Boingo Ryder, was this your first time reading this book? And if so, how did you feel about it?
Yes, I enjoyed it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Anything you want to elaborate, or you want to wait until we start getting into points and whatnot?
I mean, it's a solid Supergirl story, which is just Superman, but add a dash of differently flavored angst. And yeah.
Interesting. Snowcomb, was this your first time reading this book? And if so, how did you feel about it?
It was my first time reading this book, and I thought it was absolutely incredible. The art alone was some of the best I've seen in any book, I think. Any comic that I can remember reading, I've never been taken by such an interesting art style and like distinct interpretation of different worlds.
Nice. Buster, was this your first time reading this book? And if so, how did you feel about it?
Yes, this was my first time reading Woman of Tomorrow, and it was pretty solid. Beautiful art, solid story. Like the characterization work, especially early on. Just fun fantastical sci-fi adventure.
All right. I guess that's pretty much all we can do as far as non-spoilers, because the book is very heavy in its twists and turns, and a lot of it is based around vignettes and whatnot. So let's just go ahead and get into it. What's something specifically one of you guys wants to talk about when it comes to this book?
I guess we could start with how the book opens, like how we get introduced to the titular Woman of Tomorrow, where it's like she's just
half the first issue doesn't even have Supergirl in it.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing: in one level, the first character we do see is the Woman of Tomorrow because she is just a young girl when we meet her.
Yeah.
That's a fair interpretation. I had never really seen that before, but that's true.
But yeah, no, that's pulling things out of my ass. But also, like, no, that kind of makes sense because it's about the whole story is about this young girl essentially learning the lesson and becoming the woman she's meant to be. You know,
and
it's with Supergirl, who is the Woman of Tomorrow. The super characters are always the beacons of what we can be as people. You know.
Yeah. And I guess I should give a little bit of context for anybody listening to this who may not know the book, but we're never really intending for that kind of audience. But hey, the book is about Rufai Marai Knoll, who is a daughter of a rock farmer on an alien world, and her father is killed by a king's agent, and she's going out seeking revenge for him, and runs across Supergirl and basically goes like, hey, help me kill this guy. And Supergirl's like, I don't fucking kill, that's not my thing. And then they accidentally run into the guy, and he almost kills Crypto, who happens to be with her at the time, and she's like, all right, I gotta get the fucking information on how to fix Crypto's poisoning, so I'm going after this guy too, and you're coming with me because you're the only one who knows what he looks like offhand. And that's basically the impetus for the story. It's basically True Grit in space is a lot of people's kind of agreement of the basics of the story, but there's also a lot that's different. There's a lot of little vignette issues here and there where we see different corners of the universe, and there's lots of twists and turns. Yeah, it is a really cool decision, I think, to have the story mostly told from a new character for this book's perspective, who I don't think has turned up in anything since, and that's kind of the whole point of the book, so that's entirely fine in my opinion.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like a standalone one and done story, right?
Yeah, it would be real fucking weird if after this, because like this was kind of underrated as it was coming out, but since then, people have kind of gone like, hey, this deserves way better. This is like the best Supergirl story ever. We ought to use this as the template as her character going forward. And like part of that is the costume she gets at the end of this was her costume for like a year in DC before they put everybody in the super family in jackets. I think if there had been an ongoing shortly after this, some writer probably misguidedly would have made Rufai a recurring character in it, but luckily that did not happen. We didn't get any like actual focused Supergirl content for a while after this.
Yeah, this definitely feels like one of those things that a poorer writer would have just like, all right, Supergirl is just in space now. That's what people want. Just in space, helping people out. And it's just like, no, this is just the moment she needed at this point in time as a character of like, I talked about when I gave my brief overthoughts of like, oh, it's like a Superman story, but with different angst. With the Superman story, it's very kind of like, oh, I never got to know where I come from, but I have this I have my home now, and I need to protect it. For Supergirl, it's very much, I had everything, and slowly, bit by bit, it was ripped away from me, so I'm going to make it so no one else has to go through that, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I was thinking about this upon this read-through. Emotionally speaking, she's almost got more in common with Batman than she does Superman.
Sure.
I kind of get that, like a more sunshine Batman than anything.
No, what? No, I will build on that, Vac. Both of Superman and Batman's supposed sidekick characters are a reflection of the other, and how it takes both Batman and Superman to basically birth the new age of heroes that will propel people. Because Robin is what if Batman, but with the optimism of Superman.
Mm.
And that kind of like in parallel with Supergirl, that kind of like it kind of works, in a way.
Yeah. And it's also like a big thing that's demonstrated throughout this book is she also has the compassion not to constantly lord around the fact that she's got so much angst. Like, she lets the armor slip a couple of times in this book, but for the most part, like, I'm thinking especially of like the first time where she tries to rebuff Rufai right before they get attacked. And she's like, I'm sure you're a nice person and your dad didn't deserve to die. It's hard to lose somebody, but you need to be looking for justice, not vengeance. You need to just back off. Remember, life, like my mom used to say, my life is about compassion, not fury. And Rufai just goes, "Oh, you don't understand? You don't understand a damn thing. My dad died. He was my whole world." And she goes on this whole big rant. And the way Kara is drawn, you can just see in her eyes that she wants to be like, I understand way more than you ever could, but she knows that's not what this girl needs to hear right now.
Yeah, you go.
No,
you go.
No.
Yes.
Boingo has been talking quite a bit. Why don't you go, Snowcone?
I was just going to say I did really appreciate the fighting with that. That's one thing that I'd like throughout the whole book is that there seemed to be a really nice focus that I'm not really used to in comics, maybe, where, I don't know, like the facial expressions seem to convey a much more maybe relatable thought process in a lot of the panels.
Mm-hmm. It definitely is a more modern approach in art to have it be that way.
Yeah, and just looking back or thinking about that conversation in context is very interesting because I didn't really pick up immediately the bit at the end there.
Yeah,
I guess we are
because I mean, like, I assume you guys know a good bit about Supergirl, but you weren't like intimately familiar with the character like I am, so you probably didn't like have the details of the origin until you got to, what is it, issue 6 where they recap it?
I think it's issue 6.
It's issue 6 because issue 7's all about Space Horse and
her fighting the brigands.
Yeah.
Which by the way, I mean, it's not surprising at all, but issue 6 is my favorite issue. I really like how King is like. This is just a thing Tom King tends to do whenever he writes a character. He just very casually finds a way to go like, yeah, no, like the modern idea is cool, but the original origin story though, the original one, because up till this point, because this came out and I want to say we covered this on No Prize, so wouldn't that have been 2021, 2022?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the release dates right now. Give me a second.
So it had been almost like 10 years of the New 52 origin being the origin for Supergirl. And like, I don't hate that origin, but it is a little sloppy and a little awkward and a little try-hard. And it's really incredible how King is able to expand on the classic origin and just make it all the more heartbreaking by adding in all these little details that weren't there before. Because the original origin is like 3 pages and it's mostly told through narration in her first appearance.
Also, the book came out started coming out in 2021, so...
Okay.
It's still very recent. It makes it even more surprising that Gunn is choosing to like specifically adapt it for a comic. You know.
Well,
movie,
I think part of that
movie.
I think part of that is it feels like it takes from every era of Supergirl.
Yeah, I mean,
it feels like Guardians of the Galaxy, which is funny.
It does have a little bit of that same sci-fi vibe as the Guardians movies. I'll agree.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few silly goof gags of like, I mean, the first scene we see of Supergirl is her getting dlunk. So,
like, I don't think any world or creature in here is a direct reference to anything that actually had existed in continuity beforehand, but it all feels like a real world that could exist out there, and that's just part of the way sci-fi has always been handled in DC because of the patchwork nature of that universe. It's kind of just like, you go out far enough, you'll find anything.
Yeah.
But like with the art and with how the origins kind of reframed and all this kind of different stuff, it feels very Golden Age. Like this, I wouldn't even say it feels Golden Age. This feels pre-Golden Age comics. A lot of the art sometimes verges on fucking Nemo.
Which is interesting, because Supergirl is a Silver Age character, but I also think, like, Nemo is a good point of reference to make, because Belquist Evely is a French artist, and, like, part of the whole deal with this was King had the idea to do this book and he pitched it and he got it approved, but he didn't really have an artist in mind, and they just kind of got paired up, and like they mostly communicated through email, and there was a whole thing of like she sent him a mood board of these are the kinds of things I want to draw, and he was probably drawing from that mentally while writing the scripts. So I imagine there's a bit of cross-pollination here, and I do really like Evely's art. You talked about it a bit at the beginning, Snowcone, but we haven't really gone too in-depth on it. I hadn't seen anything she'd done before this, but she has this really nice kind of wispy, almost cartoonish, but still very comic booky style, and she has this tendency to do cross-hatching in a circular motion that I've not seen before that I really dig.
That's some old Little Nemo art that I'm kind of like talking about.
Yeah, I can see it. It's that similar kind of like just a creature.
It's that kind of very organic Art Nouveau, but very distinctly fantasy that this story deals with, not like all over the place.
Would it be Ralph Bakshi that kind of has a similar vibe, like that 70s like fuzzy art aesthetic?
Like there's a little bit of that, but there's a little bit of like this very old classic golden age of comics. There is a little of that French fantasy with like Mobius and stuff.
Yeah,
like a lot of influences, but like it culminates in this very organic, beautiful art.
Mm-hmm. It all has this very flowing look to it, which I think is best exemplified by just the way Belquist draws Kara's hair. It's always like in these very circular curls, which is not how her hair had ever been drawn before then. She often had like just straight hair, or it was styled in a particular way for an issue. But the way Belquist draws it, it's like it's constantly just flowing right out of her scalp in this very sort of enthralling way. And I think it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen people like compare the say like the hair is drawn more interestingly than like 90% of comics, and like I can see that, like just like the hair, like just all the hair in this is like so flowing. It's so miraculously drawn and like great frame of moment.
I mean, I'm surprised more superheroes don't have long hair, because that's just the second cape.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'd never thought of it that way, but you're totally right.
It just you can use it for more dynamic. And for a lazy artist who doesn't want to like put that much work in, it's like, oh god, I have to do fucking long hair. Shit. Mm-hmm. But for someone who's like, no, let me make this interesting and dynamic, beautiful.
Yeah. And I mean, that's also another great thing about this book is like Kara's powers are used fairly sparingly. I mean, speaking comparatively to other comics of the time, but when she does use them, there's often like this big dynamic single panel showcasing it.
Yeah, because we didn't talk about why Supergirl. Did we talk about why Supergirl was on that planet?
Yeah. I think I kind of touched on it, but I didn't detail it. It's her 21st birthday, and she wanted to get drunk, but she needed a red sun, so she flew out as far as she could on her own, and then she chartered a shuttle to the world where Rufai happens to live.
And that just also just shows of like, I think it's mentioned later of like, why did you want to get drunk and party by yourself? Why didn't you want to be around friends?
Yeah,
it's because, well, as implicitly Pretentious put it in his video about this book, there's kind of something broken inside her, and it's probably hard for her to make connections.
Yeah, because like you said, it's a Superman with the Batman story, you know? Mm-hmm. Like everything she loved died, and the one thing she was like, oh, I'll be there to protect him, right? He's already grown, and he's doing more protecting you than anything. And
all she has to comfort herself is the fact that she's invulnerable.
Yeah. And a dog.
Dog. Which is funny, because that wasn't even a thing until very recently, pairing her with Crypto. That started in Rebirth. But for the longest time, her like go-to super pet was Streaky, and Streaky's like relegated to a reference these days.
Yeah. Hey,
was
Crypto's still
Streaky?
cool. I still like seeing him in this book.
Yeah, it's
It
a
was Streaky.
Streaky the super cat.
Yeah, it's a cat that got powers from like kryptonite.
Yeah,
It's not a Kryptonian cat.
it's a regular ass cat that got exposed to kryptonite, and somehow that gave it superpowers. That's the most explanation they've ever given it, because it was the Silver Age.
It was in that Crypto cartoon back in the day.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's adapting the original story.
Yeah. I mean, the old Crypto cartoon on Cartoon Network.
Yeah, I remember that show. That was a good show.
Yeah.
Anything else about the comic?
I don't know. What do you want to talk about, Buster?
I like issue 5 with the dinosaurs and like where Rufy has to basically defend Supergirl from like because she's sick because of the conditions of the planet.
Yeah, that's a story every Supergirl book tends to do every once in a while. Is just like low key. Hey, she's a little better than Clark. She's not like she doesn't like put him to shame, but she's a little better than Clark. She could last through a whole 10 hours on this planet. He couldn't get through 45 minutes.
Yeah. Just like I just thought that issue was like it showed Rufy getting like on her own, like finally standing up for herself, and also just had some really funny dialogue, and also dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are cool. I like dinosaurs.
Yeah. That's the other thing is like people talk about this book a lot, and like deservedly so, about how like emotional and complex it is, but it's also a very funny book. There's at least one laugh out loud line per issue.
I think Ruthie gets a lot of comedy just from the fact that she does the whole alien very proper speak thing.
Mm-hmm. Or like she just doesn't understand something. Like one of my favorite moments in the first issue is when Carol wakes up the next day drunk, and she's like constantly going on about like, oh, you're not supposed to see this, fuck, oh man, god damn it, and then she like has to throw up, and she says fuck, and I think it's while she's throwing up that Rufai goes, you speak often of this fuck, is he your husband?
Yeah.
How'd you guys feel about issue 4? Because that's one people tend to talk about a lot. That's an issue that's got a lot of little vignettes in it, and everybody seems to have their favorite vignette from that issue.
Yeah, let me take a look at it right now. I'll say I found that one of the more forgettable issues. But
that's the one with the mass grave.
Yeah, and that actually is my favorite vignette when she just shows up and in the blink of an eye helps this guy bury his entire village. It's like it's such a perfect Superman moment, but it's done with Supergirl.
Yeah, that is a hard one.
What were you saying, Cohen?
Is that not the Coven? Is that not the same issue with the Purple Town and like
that is issue 3?
Okay, that's right before that then.
But I mean, we can also talk about that because that's a big heavy issue. That's clearly like Tom King is doing a thing. He's thinking about some stuff that he's been reading about.
Yeah, but it's also just like that is
a
pure out and out Star Trek Superman story, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Just do a Supergirl who has that anger and vitriol and vinegar behind her, so it's not as nice. Superman would be nice about this. Supergirl ain't.
Mm-hmm. He'd be more horrified. She's just like, of fucking course it's this shit. Fuck these people.
Yeah.
But Superman would try to teach them their lesson, and Supergirl's like, no, fuck you. Fuck all this.
She's just like, I'm gonna report you to the authorities, I'm gonna comfort my little girlfriend, and then we're leaving.
But you know.
Yeah, it's definitely
I just thought it was funny. It's like, how do we show racism? Purple and blue.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Town.
That's the whole problem. That's the whole big thing with sci-fi illusion. It gets very hammery.
Yeah,
you see, my face is black on one side and white on the other, but his face is white on one side and black on the other.
And if you ask William Shatner, that's totally not politics.
Oh my god. Yeah. How does the ending make you feel, Vac?
It was a bit rough to swallow at first, and it took a few read-throughs for me to fully get it, but I'm now that we're like a couple years removed from it, I'm totally fine with it.
Yeah.
See, that's go explain the ending, Vac, so we can talk about it in length.
the ending is they get a hold of Krem, and they have him trapped on a little island on a little planet. And the Barbon's brigands that he had joined up with, which are like this big intergalactic gang of mercenaries that are like world renowned for their, or universally renowned for their cruelty. They're bearing down on them because they have a whole like, if you take one of us, you're gonna have to fight all of us, kind of a thing. And so Kara is trying to fend them off up in space above the planet, while Rufai and Comet the Super Horse are keeping an eye on Krem of the Yellow Hills, the guy who murdered Rufai's dad. And eventually, Rufai convinces Comet to go help Kara and leave her alone with Krem for a little while. And they get into a whole big fight and sort of like ideological sparring, that ends in her trying to kill Krem and realizing that she can't and wondering what the heck is wrong with her. And then Kara comes back from the battle, at great cost, and is just like, because I've been trying to teach you that this is not the way. This is not what you need to be doing. And clearly you haven't learned your lesson, so I guess I'm just going to kill him anyway, because all that shit about crypto was a lie. That was totally bullshit. That was just to get you going so that we could get this over with. And Rufai is like, no, actually, now that I think about it, I did learn. And we run back over all the events of the book and what it taught her. And then we flash forward and we learn that apparently several hundred years later, Krem has been working out a sentence in the Phantom Zone, and they free him and see that he's repentful, and they just kind of let him go. And we find out that all the narration we've been reading has been a book that Rufai wrote, and it actually had a different ending where Supergirl did actually kill Krem, that Supergirl asked her to put in the book so that the brigands wouldn't come after Rufai and her family. Which, I have to admit, at first I was like, feels like a bit of a cop-out, because, like, in True Grit, they do actually kill the guy, and I thought that's where this was going, and I thought we were going to see that kind of an ending, that bit of a downer ending. But it also feels like it's much more appropriate to change it here because it plays into the hopefulness of the super family, that anyone can get better, can become a better person. Although I did think that it was like a dark joke in the ending at first when Rufai whacks Krem with her cane. I thought she killed him there the first time I read it.
Nah, I thought so too. I was like, with the blood splatter, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I think it's just, it is that a person can redeem themselves and can learn their lesson and become, and learn from their mistakes doesn't mean you have to forgive them.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's supposed to be. Now that I've read enough times and I've listened to more interviews with Tom King, because Tom King is one of the comic writers I keep up with a lot. It's well documented on the No Price podcast. I'm a dedicated fan of his work. In fact, it's documented even before then, to the point where I can remember back when this book first got announced, I excitedly posted it in Boingo's Discord server, and Boingo was just like, so where'd you find the monkey's paw to wish on?
Because it was more of a Tom King is a writer who puts his characters through the ringer. I'm like, you sure you want that for your care? For your girl there, bud?
And the fact of the matter is, like, before this, there was never really a story that highlighted it, but the fact of the matter is, that's kind of who Supergirl is, and that's why I like her so much, is she is this hopeful, kind, caring person who wants people to be better, that has been through a lot, and as the book says at one point, she has this crushing weight of all that she's been through that is constantly bearing down on her shoulders. And the fact that she still gets up and goes out into the universe and does good is what makes her such a inspiring character.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this Supergirl story works really well as a tandem thing with Tom King's other super story of Superman Up in the Sky.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Although I think I like Up in the Sky more, I'll be frank.
Well, Up in the Sky is a more, like, pure in and out Superman story with all the hope and all the optimism and all the everything's gonna be all right because you can make it through. This is everything's gonna be all right, but it's gonna suck.
Yeah.
It'll all work out in the end, but it's gonna be tough to get to the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I kind of see why you would like Supergirl a bit more than Superman, Vac. Not just because you have childhood bias, but because you like a bit of that like realistic grit with your like hopefulness, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, like, it would be a lie of me to say I don't find it at least a little bit relatable.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice though.
Yeah.
It's a nice change of pace for me because I'm not used to seeing too much Supergirl centered content.
Yeah, I'm glad you made us read this, Vac.
All right. Well, I guess anything else we want to get into as far as overall thoughts? Anything else we want to like specifically highlight before we close out?
I do like how part of it was just Tom King going like, "What can I do to help?" I like that about Tom King and his writing at DC of just like, "Hey, what character can I use to like elevate them?" Because people like my writing. What can I do?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that's cool of a dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just seems like the kind of guy he is. You know, he's one of those writers. Like, he's almost like a I forget his name, but the guy who made Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. He's like the sweetest guy ever, but he writes some of the most fucked up shit you've ever seen. And Tom King's kind of that Vince Gilligan. Yeah. Tom King is kind of the Vince Gilligan of comics, where he seems like a really sweet and nice guy, but everything he writes is like, this dude must have like the most serious depression that he is really good at hiding.
I also think just with his attitude on how he picks characters and how he gets assigned characters, he would have done great in a very classic Marvel or DC bullpen.
Yeah. Because he's got like his dedicated fan base and his dedicated hate base, and it's like everybody who has encountered him feels a certain way about him, and they're just always going to feel that way. So like his books are always guaranteed to sell to a certain degree just on his name. And I think like after he left Batman, because that was the thing he came into DC on, was his run on Batman. He had done like a thing or two before that, but he got his exclusive contract to do the Rebirth Batman run. And after he finished that, I think he just kind of developed this idea of like, all right, I've got a secure paycheck here. Let's just figure out fun things to do until that dries up.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, that's not a bad.
Yeah. So I guess the last thing to really do is over under. How would you guys rate this book? Would you recommend it to somebody who is going in blind to it? That kind of a thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I already told my partner to read it.
Oh, nice.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. It's a good book. Good ass book. Yeah. It's I can see why it got a lot of critical acclaim.
Boingo.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. I didn't hear you if you spoke over the other guys. All right. Well, it's another shorty, but Analytical Fanboys tends to skew shorter than our other shows, I guess.
Yeah, and it's just like, hey, there's nothing else I can say other than the book is good. Go read it.
Yeah. A short of like doing the comic pop thing and just going through it point by point, but folks don't really need it, especially because the back issues episode for this does exist and it's really good. But I guess the final thing to do before we wrap up, Cody, it is your turn to pick. So what are we going to be talking about next time on Analytical Fanboys?
I want us to watch Motor City.
What?
Hell yeah.
What?
Oh boy.
What?
I think you broke Buster.
How long is Motor City? Let me check. I think it's only 13 episodes.
Yeah, it's not that long.
Yeah, I've always wanted to watch.
It's a Disney XD animated series, right?
Yeah, it was like, okay, it's 20 episodes. I can do that. But like, this was canceled after one season. This was made during the Tron Uprising era of like Disney cartoons. Okay.
One of my favorite era. No, I was watching Tron Uprising while I was watching this, but Motor City was and still probably is one of my all-time faves for cartoons.
I could be mistaken, but I think Babs Tarr also worked on this a little bit. She was one of my favorite comic book artists for a time. She hasn't done much I've read recently, though.
Well,
Oh, it was created by the guy, or not? It was created by a guy who worked on Megas XLR. That makes too much sense.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, how many giant robots?
No giant robots, but looks like giant car.
Yeah, it's
Boingo,
Motor
have you ever
City.
experienced this show before?
No, I haven't.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Oh,
yeah.
I have seen brief Sakuga gifs of moments of just look how dope this looks.
You're gonna love the Duke of Detroit.
Oh, I have a feeling because everything I've seen of that show just feels like Redline, and I love Redline.
Yeah.
Have we done an AF on Redline?
Yeah, we did do an AF on Redline. I love Redline. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess that's going to do it for this edition of Analytical Fanboys. So let's get to the plugging and the tugging. Snowcone, tell the good people out there where they can find you out on the internets.
Never_robot on Instagram.
You know, I always love listening to you plug stuff because it sounds like it always starts to sound like you're telling them they can never find you anywhere, and that's hilarious. That's
all I want.
Good joke.
Do not perceive me.
All right, Buster. What is all your links and stuff?
I have a YouTube. I do too many videos on too many things. Go subscribe. I don't know what video will be out by now, but hopefully it'll be a good one. Also, follow my socials. I don't know which ones are still going to be up, so just peruse the links. Yeah.
All right. Boingo, do the bit.
What bit? I have multiple bits.
Hey, howdy. I'm Boingo Writer.
I stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/Boingo Writer. I am on YouTube. You can follow me there. See a variety of videos, including weekly Kamen Rider reviews and video essays and editorials. I also am on a variety of social media platforms: Bluesky, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all those places. At Boingo_robot. Fuck off. At Boingo_writer.
Nobody even said anything, and he just got defensive.
No, I was telling my own mouth to fuck off.
Oh, wow.
And he misspoke. He said Boingo_robot.
I heard that, and then he said fuck off, and I thought he was expecting one of us to be like, "Oh, who's Boingo Robot?"
No, I was telling myself to fuck off. There is no one who insults me more than myself.
That's fair. Anything else?
Subscribe and follow this channel.
Yeah, but first, hey, I'm the Vacuuminator. I make YouTube videos. They're things I'm kind of proud of. You can check them out tomorrow. In fact, there's going to be a YouTube stream going on my channel at the Vacuuminator. Myself and the good Mr. Boingo are going to be tier listing the entire MCU. So if that sounds like a good time to you, come and hang out with us in the chat for a little bit and talk shit about our takes. And also like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Don't forget to follow me on Bluesky at thevacuuminator.bsky.social. I got a Tumblr, it's thevacuuminator.tumblr.com, and I have an Instagram, which is at @the_thevacuuminator, or at @the_vacuuminator. Jesus Christ. It's been a time. It's been a rhyme, but that's going to do it for this edition of Analytical Fanboys. Of course, like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell for Modular Media. Follow us on Twitter at The Modular Media, on Bluesky at modularmedia.bsky.social, and on Tumblr at Modular Media. And join us back here next month for the next edition of Analytical Fanboys, where we will be discussing Motor City. Until then.